This podcast is brought to you by Penji. Penji is a creative subscription service that gives you access to pre-vetted, agency-trained creatives from all over the world. From graphic design to illustrations to social media management and web development, it's all included for one monthly price. It's time to say goodbye to the hassle of searching for top-notch creative talent. With Penji, you get quality and consistency delivered right to your inbox every day. Carefully crafted for you by humans, so meet your new creative team today. Head over to penji.co for more and enter the coupon code located within the podcast show notes.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the First 100 podcast. This is the podcast where we're going to be exploring the journey of entrepreneurs, business owners, agency leaders, and so many other people as they share with us the strategies, the challenges, and the triumphs that have led them to secure those first 100 customers, first 100 followers, first 100 people. So today I'm joined with a very special guest, John Quirk. Hi, John. How are you?
Hey, Danielle. I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. So excited to have you here. You're actually the first person that we have who has such an interesting business as yours. For context, and for everybody who is listening or watching that doesn't know what I'm talking about, doesn't know about you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and about SoCal and what you do?
Yeah, so I run SoCal Wellness Retreats. It's a business I started 6 years ago. We run holistic-based wellness retreats. So for people that are really looking for a solution to stress, we get folks that are going through difficult times with breakups, job losses, general traumas. We get people that are coming with, medical diagnoses and a lot of folks who've tried, I think, Western model of things, be it medications or talk therapy. And we give them an alternative and a way to come to an environment, into a situation where there's a lot of love and there's a lot of joy and laughter. And I'm also a huge proponent of giving people an opportunity to challenge themselves. So we have things like breath work and cold plunging and stuff that really gets people out of their comfort zone. But, my journey with this started all the way back in 2014. It's kind of crazy that it's been 10 years now, but I used to work as a journalist. I was a TV producer, a writer. I've done all kinds of that.
You said it's been 10 years since 2014, right?
Yeah.
Very incredible. I feel like that was yesterday.
It is. Yeah. I think, especially with COVID, kind of just like 2 or 3 years sort of disappeared in there too for a lot of us. But
I just got jump scared. I'm so sorry because I graduated high school in 2014. So I was just like, did you just say 10 years?
Yeah, no, you can fact check me on that one, but I'm pretty sure 2024, we're still in it.
I hadn't internalized it. And when you said that, I was like, Jesus.
Yeah, it's wild. I just got I love the Facebook memories that pop up sometimes. And I just got one the other day that 7 years ago this week, I was driving cross country from New York to California. So I was kind of leaving one life and starting another life. So I mean, I used to work pretty hectic jobs. I mean, if you're a journalist, you're on a deadline pretty much all the time. So it's just a super high stress environment. It's like a pressure cooker all the time. And I didn't really have any coping mechanisms. I was an athlete growing up, and I loved to work out, and that was one piece of the puzzle. But it was actually yoga that gave me sort of this other side of, I got into breath work and meditation. I started picking up books on yogic philosophy and got all the way into the rabbit holes of metaphysics and quantum mechanics, and really just understanding that there's a whole world of energy and things that sort of happen behind the scenes that we don't see that really affect our well-being and how we interface with the world. And so, fundamentally, the retreats are an opportunity for people to learn a lot about themselves, but I also teach a lot of these things in a way that I think makes sense for a lot of people. I think it's just a lot more practical and approachable for people who are, wanting to understand, what are some of these things that are affecting us, on a day-to-day level. And it's really powerful. We just finished one yesterday and just had the most amazing group. We had a couple guys whose wives had come before, and they sent them to come because they had such a great time. And a gal actually just reached out to us this morning. She brought 2 of her adult children, which we had never really had like a full family of like 3 people come together. And they just had an amazing time. And so it's really unique that I get to really love what I do every single day. I feel so grateful. And of course, it's been a lot of work and a lot of challenges. I've messed up a lot of things, and I'm sure we're going to dive into some of that stuff. But yeah, that's kind of the state of the union right now for me.
That's so interesting. And actually, I do want to hear how you got started with your journey before I rudely interrupted you when I freaked out about 2014. But how did your journey start with, I think it's such a niche industry that you tapped into and such a unique business because I feel like I talk to a lot of business owners. Most of them do more traditional things like, they'll sell a product, a service, a lot of marketing agencies, a lot of like digital stuff. What pushed you to start a wellness retreat company?
Yeah, well, I mean, kind of my own first crisis was getting fired from my job in 2014. And so I had worked at a pretty high level organization for news called Al Jazeera, but I really wanted to get into sports, and I had been in sports before that. And so I was really dying to get back into that. And so I had a guy find me who was kind of working at this startup, and he was quite a salesman. He sold me on coming to this company, but then really kind of disappeared from my life. I never saw him again. And I got kind of put under this boss that we just really didn't get along. And the whole work environment, I always felt like it was the first day of school and I didn't have any friends. I didn't like going to work. I was really having a tough time, like trying to do a good job, but managing a lot of different ineptitudes in the company and things that were just, and my own life was just starting to shift. I picked up yoga about a year or two before that. And so I was finding that I really was wanting to spend less time in the office, and I was wanting to spend more time doing yoga and meditating. And so when I lost my job, it was pretty funny because I didn't feel, I think, a lot of the normal emotions that you'd feel. I wasn't like, that upset. I mean, I was like, okay, I'm like, I need to figure out how to make money. But I was like, other than that, I was like, I wasn't that disappointed about not going to this job. I mean, of course you have that feeling of, am I not good enough? And all that stuff kind of creeps in. But I was pretty quickly, it was like a week later, I was in a yoga teacher training, and I was all in. I was like the first teacher in our yoga teacher training to start teaching public classes. I started running around to try to find private clients. I figured out little tricks to kind of market myself on things like Thumbtack, and I would go to local events and just hand out business cards. And so I was so impassioned by the idea of really spreading health and wellness to people that it just became, kind of that natural progression into the next step. And then retreats just really became an extension of that. I really just wanted to find a way to go deeper with people. I think an hour class was amazing, but I really didn't want to stop. Like, I would stay after class and I would have these conversations, and I would ask people like, are you into meditation? Do you know anything about metaphysics? Have you ever picked up any of this stuff? And a lot of people were. And so even my first retreat, like, I really have like a marketing plan. I just kind of I had no website. I had no social media following. I had no nothing. I just had a dream to bring people to really, sorry, my robot vacuum is freaking out, so just turn it off.
No worries.
So I wanted to take people a little bit further. And I was living in New York, right outside New York City at the time, and it was very cold in the winters there. So I just decided to go to Costa Rica with a bunch of people. And I mean, I was literally taking payments in cash and checks. Like, I had no e-commerce. I had nothing. It was just all like passion driven. And that's kind of how it was for the first few years that I ran the business. I really had no high level business plan. I just was just doing a bunch of stuff that seemed fun, and that seemed like stuff I would want to do. And then other people wanted to do it too, So yeah, that's really where it all started.
Very interesting. And actually, I obviously checked out your website, checked out your retreats, and I had a question about when you actually started putting all of this together. I'm assuming that, you were learning throughout the process. Did you have to get any sort of other paper backing for this? Because you did tap into a lot of like modern medicine and sort of alternative strategies that I think a lot of us as like normal people in the world, we're not completely in tune with. Um, And I know that to become a yoga teacher, a lot of people have to go through courses and stuff like that. Did you have to did you reach a point where you felt like, I need to get something out of like to show credibility, or do you think it was more just like happened through your results? How did that go through? Because I think it's such an interesting and different world.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It is kind of interesting where, I even think you look at like a lot of the folks that have come on our retreats are from the medical community. I think, it's doctors, it's nurses, it's people that are burnt out. And look, like, I'm not saying Western medicine is bad, universally bad. It's quite the opposite. I mean, there's amazing innovations in the world of, robotics and what they can do with treatments of certain diseases. And I mean, if I break my leg tomorrow, you can bet your butt I'm going straight to a Western doctor, right, to get it fixed. So it definitely serves a purpose. I think what gets left behind is, mental health is such a nuanced and complex thing, right? Because it involves so many layers of psychology and then environment and then things like nutrition. I call it the complete diet. What are you taking into your mouth, but also what are you consuming with your eyes and your ears? And, the amount of time people are spending on their phones and social media, this is eroding away the fabric of what I think a lot of people have a bad relationship with dopamine, and it causes them to sort of not know how to feel bad or feel good. They just sort of meander in the middle. And if you look at, Western medicine and doctors, they're quite specialized, right? Like they just kind of look at one part of the whole. And so that from a mental health standpoint, it really falls short. It's funny because one of the only criticisms in years of doing this that I've got was from a Western medicine doctor, because I think she was a little bit angry that I didn't have more like of the certifications or the things on my wall. Um, but I've learned through so many different mediums. I've gone to countless retreats. I've been to like 6 Dr. Joe Dispenza retreats, and he's a neuroscientist and a quantum physicist. And, he's doing research that's like literally turning the medical world upside down, because it's proving that a lot of your ability to think and feel good affects your ability to actually be healthy. And so, but I mean, I've read countless books. I've been to so many workshops, and I mean, even YouTube University. I'm like, I tell people all the time, like, there's so many resources that are free out there that you could learn about so much of this stuff, and it doesn't even really cost much. So, for me, I think some of it also too is just anecdotal. I've taken a wide breadth of different things between breath work and meditation, movement, sunlight, cold exposure. But I've also just gotten in my own little laboratory, and I've experimented and I've tried and played with different things and kind of created some of my own systems. And, that's been really the loudest voice, that evidence of my own transformation, my own ability to self-regulate and feel good without any kind of exterior stimulation or pills or food or, that kind of stuff. And so that's really what I share with people. And I tell people on retreats, like, I don't want people to dogmatically follow me and my system, but I want them to try a bunch of things so that they become more sensitive to what works for them. Because again, it's so layered and so nuanced, like what works for certain people. Like I was vegan for 10 years, and like that was great for a period of my life. And then I went back to eating meat, and that really served me as I got older. And, so I would never try to tell people like, oh, this is the be all end all, like way that you must do it. And that's always been really important. And I think why we've been really successful too, because we come at it very authentically, and I don't try to pretend that I have all the answers for everybody.
That's great. Yeah, no, I think that's also really important when it comes to things like wellness, because they're very touchy subjects, right? And a lot of it is I think people's opinions and reactions are going to depend on their own experiences. Um, I actually wanted to ask you about something that you mentioned earlier, which was how when you started, you didn't really have a lot of marketing. You didn't have like a sales funnel, a lot of this. Um, Even within your industry, like I think when you start businesses, that is important to start setting up when you actually want to start measuring success, want to start seeing all of these things in your industry, in this retreat wellness world. How were you able to sort of start to walk into like, websites, e-commerce? How did you start to figure out how to do pricing, lead generation. I think I've talked to so many people who always tell me like, yeah, like finding clients is always the most difficult thing. Obviously for you, it's not necessarily a customer or client as much as it's like a person who's willing to go through this experience. How did you go, like, how did that process of, creating the profile for the people that you're targeting, all of these things go for you?
It's such a good question, and it's quite well timed because I'm actually in the process of hiring marketing help right now, like a devoted person just to do marketing for us. For me, it was a lot of throwing stuff against the wall and just seeing what stuck, I think it was very passion driven, and I tell people it was very intuitive driven, but um, it wasn't a very calculated marketing strategy. Let's put it that way. And it still isn't in a lot of ways. And that's why I'm finally like reaching out for help and support, but as far as like website stuff, I just would go online. I would just, kind of watch videos and tutorials and, something like Squarespace, right, is something that if you're relatively, I think, technically proficient, like you can, at least get started. And then there's, layers of how how functional do you need it to be, right? And so like, for me, it's really just presenting us in a way that looks clean, it looks polished, but it doesn't need to have some like crazy amount of like, integration with a CRM or anything like that. But we're looking into doing some of that stuff now, right? And so, I think for me, a lot of my original attendees were coming out of my classes or just an email list. I think, that's always your low hanging fruit. I think the people that you're interacting with and you're already giving value to in whatever you're doing, especially if you're a service based industry like we are, that's just the biggest no brainer, right? It's just to really, talk to those people, see what they want, really ask them. I think that's a mistake that, I kind of made early on. Like I felt nervous to like, do you want to go on a retreat here? Would you want it to be this amount of days? Like, I think we kind of want to have our own vision sometimes. But really it's like you're serving people, right? Like you're, especially in what we do is like, we're wanting to help people. I mean, that's really at the top of the list of things. When I start to think from a business standpoint, I'm always like, what is the best possible thing that I can do for our people, for our community? And then I sort of figure out a way to monetize it second. And I noticed that in a lot of business where I think people are thinking a lot about how to make money first and then how to provide the most quality second. It's like I laugh at something like Temu, right? It's like that, overseas, like super cheap crap that you can buy from like China, and it's like, it's just about selling you like tons and tons of stuff and half of it doesn't work. And it's just like, it's become like our world is getting commodified at certain things, and if you're in the service-based industry, you can't do that. You can't fake it. We don't really have like a top of funnel offer, right? Like we just have one thing, like we're just doing these retreats and, it's a big investment. It's a time investment. Most of the people fly here, they started about $1,000. So it's a big, financial investment for people.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's a big step for people to take. And that's why I want to bring a little bit more help and science into it and start to run day events and smaller things where people can kind of bite off a little bit of us and try it before they really have to make this longer and bigger commitment. But, at the end of the day, my passion to want to help people and to, I've given retreat spots away. We just had a lady come this week who she's been on retreat with us, but she's having a hard time. And, she reached out to me and said, I really need this, but like, I can't pay you right now. And, I said, look, we have an extra bed, come, just come. And she was like, well, can I work? And I was like, no, just come, like just come get, and that's always been the way I've tried to be about this. And, from a marketing standpoint, I've gotten very burned. I will tell you, I've spent over $100,000 on things that have not worked out. I've hired PPC companies. I've hired private coaches. I've hired custom website builders. I've tried a lot of different things, and I call it $100,000 education. It was like a graduate school, because I learned the things that would work and I learned some of the things that would not work. I learned a lot of things that don't work. Mostly silver bullet solutions. If people tell you they have some kind of quick fix things for you, I would be very skeptical of that because, marketing, as I'm sure and talking to probably high level people, it takes time, right? It takes time to get a strategy, get your client avatars in place, and then, unveil a strategy, see how it works, test a few different things, and then, create your verticals and then kind of go down the paths that work. So, I have learned a lot and now I feel really well positioned to hopefully hire the most amazing rockstar person. We're almost there. We got a couple people we're in like the last little phase of the hiring process with, but Yeah, it's really, it's been a labor of love first, and then sort of the business side and figuring things out second. But at some point I want to start a property out here. I want to have my own retreat center. I want to be able to help even more people by running more events. So that vision has gotten more clear, and especially recently. So
That's great. Yeah, no, and I think like what you said, marketing does require us a lot of trial and error, which means a lot of failures. Like you'll try a million strategies and they'll suck until you find a million one and that one works.
yeah. Yeah, and I don't know, and I'm sure you can speak to this, but I feel like it's right at the edge of where people, it's like anything that's worthwhile. It's like when I say people in the ice bath, it's like you want to get out right away, but if you can just stay in for a couple minutes, you'll feel so amazing when you get out. And I think a lot of people, especially entrepreneurs, it's hard because you don't have a steady paycheck, and people in your circle might be telling you you're crazy, and all these factors can kind of stack up against you. But it's typically, I think, right at the edge of where we want to quit, that right on the other side is that million one that you talked about. It's
Yeah,
it's
true.
turning you one more time.
You just have to stay consistent. I think like don't lose hope. And as long as you're doing the right things, I think you're gonna get to where you want to get.
Yeah. I reference this, I'll tell this story really quick, but I referenced a speech that Jim Carrey had once where he talked about his dad, and he said his dad could have been a great comedian, but he took the safe option, right? To be like an accountant, I think it was. And he ended up losing his job, and Jim Carrey grew up with very little money, and he learned from that if you're gonna fail, right, or at least struggle, I guess would be the better word, but it's like you might as well do it doing something you love, right? It's like our time is so precious here. It's like, so many people wait till 65 and they go to a job that they really don't enjoy, and they don't follow their passions. And somebody needs you out there. Somebody needs what you do. Somebody needs what you're good at. And, it doesn't have to be an entrepreneurship, but, if you're stuck in something you don't like, a job or relationship, it's like there's there's no better time to explore other options than right now. It's because we don't get that much of it. So yeah, I'm just grateful every day that I get to do what I do.
So, I also wanted to know, can you walk us through what a retreat looks like for you? What kind of retreats you offer for what kind of people? I know you said there's people who are going through tough times, like breakups. I'm assuming like death of people that they love, that kind of thing. Can you walk us through that a little bit?
Yeah, it looks so different for everybody, but what's so funny is when we do like our group activities, we get people together and we get them to sort of share a little bit about their lives with each other. And the universal language of retreats is that everybody's kind of going through something. We are all struggling, even the most polished people, even the most financially well-off people that you would think have no problems in the world. Those are actually some of the most stressed people, some of the most unhappy people that I've ever met. And so the process for us is it's formulaic. It's to really get people in a welcoming environment, but to tell them like, hey, this isn't a vacation with a little bit of like yoga thrown in. This is something that my ethos, my intention is to really make it transformative for people. And so when they walk through the doors of the retreat, I tell them, look, like if you just give us some effort, you show up, you never have to have done yoga in your life. You've never meditated a minute in your life. It doesn't matter. If you just show up and you're present with this and you give good effort, we can help you change your life. And, people are always a little bit, I think, skeptical at first. And, but after 4 days, you literally look at people's faces like they look different, and we do take away their cell phones, which I think is such a huge, we call them these digital detox retreats. And I think that gets people's attention. That's been one of the branding and marketing things that's worked really well for us is I think, especially in the West, there's nobody that you can ask that it's like, if you say, hey, you think you could use a little less screen time? I think pretty much everybody's like, yeah, I could probably use a little less screen time, and so that's an easier point of entry for people than like, hey, how about quantum mechanics and, doing all this kind of crazy energy work. It's like, if you say that to people, they kind of think you're a little bit crazy.
Yeah.
So I think we want to keep it accessible, right? And that's another huge, I think, benefit of what we do and something I'm really good at and I'm really proud of. But yeah, it looks so different. Like I've had people come that, they've had cancer diagnoses and they've come to us with like, months to live according to their doctor. And I've got messages from those people years later, that started doing breath work and meditation every day and really just fundamentally became different people, and it's interesting because when we move through our lives, we wear a lot of masks. We have a lot of titles. We're a mom, we're a senior vice president, or we're a writer, or whatever we are. And when you come to the retreat, you just get to be human. You just get to be a person, and you really don't have to have any of those labels and responsibilities, and to just kind of clear your schedule and clear your mind for a few days and have nothing else to focus on by yourself. I think, a lot of people won't let their cell phone go below like 30% battery, right? But they'll run themselves right into the ground, and so we give them an opportunity to really come and recharge. And when they leave, they're changed. They're fundamentally changed. And we're even working now on trying to get some technology and some research in place that we can actually show measurements of, but we can show, what people look like day one versus what they look like day four. And yeah, like by the time they leave, they're like, oh, I was a little skeptical that this could be life changing, but it just keeps coming up. And they start talking about things like energy, and they start talking about things like, they're able to really see people in a totally different way. And they even just an optimism, like a general positivity about humanity. I think if you look at the news, which I worked in, you look at politics, it's very divisive, it's very toxic, it's us versus them kind of thing. But human beings fundamentally are really not the best species for being the strongest, the fastest. We don't see the best, we don't hear the best, but we do really well as we work together, right? And that's really what has allowed our species to flourish as much as we've been able to flourish, is really community. I always tell people, I'm like, you wake up at a house on a bed, you get in a car, and that was all helped by other people. Other people had to build the roads. Other people, like, you were constantly being supported by other people, whether we like it or not. Even the most autonomous people, right? Maybe you're living off the grid, some of us, but like, if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably benefiting off of lots of people, right? Helping just kind of get through the day, whether you like it or not. And so we tap into that too. The power of collective consciousness, the power of community and support. People always say like, oh, I can't do the ice bath. And then they get in with somebody else and they, both kind of support each other. And it's almost like a little peer pressure to survive, and then they get out and they hug each other. It's like, look, you could do this with the help of somebody else, So these are just all fundamental tenets and things that, like I said, I'm really proud of, that, you don't have to be like a yogi. You don't have to dress a certain way or look a certain way to come to these retreats. I've had 17 to 81-year-olds come on this retreat. I've had men, women, non-binary. I've had, just about anything you could imagine, anybody and everything, and we've been able to navigate most of it pretty amazingly. So
That's great. And how long are the retreats? Like usually how many days? Is it
yeah.
what people want it to be?
No, so we have set programs. So it's the minimum is 4 days, and then we go to Indonesia for 8 days, 7 nights, and that one is obviously very far away and requires a lot of, there's just so much to do there. So we do, like we go to surf camp, and we go hiking up volcanoes, and we have cooking classes with the locals, and there's a New Year's celebration while we're there. It's like a totally fun, like Carnival style celebration with a day of silence that follows after it. It's this very unique thing where the whole island like shuts down. And so, yeah, my goal is to, before COVID, we were running 7-day retreats, and I really loved that. I love the more immersive experience, but it takes us just 4 days to really change lives. So that's our minimum. Our digital detox retreat is 4 days. But I'm thinking by end of like next year or early 2026, I want to get back to doing a 7-day deployment, because to have people for that amount of time is just, it's really powerful. It's really cool to see what we can do in that amount of time.
And how many, like, I'm also curious, how many retreats can you hold like within a year's time? Or I mean, I'm assuming you are the one that's hosting it, organizing it. So how often can you have a retreat? Or do you have other people doing this for you as well?
No, I've run into other facilitators at certain times. We do have like support staff, like people that come in and do massage and Reiki and hypnotherapy. And we have amazing people that do acupuncture. But as far as like the program itself, I've always been very sensitive to, I have a very like distinct way that I want it to sort of flow. And so all of the classes, all the workshops, I start with people at 7 a.m. We go all the way to 8 o'clock at night. So, I run pretty much every single class and workshop that we do. My goal is to get back to doing 8 local retreats here in San Diego every year, and then 2 big international retreats. But at some point, if we had our own property, I think we could do multiple retreats in a month. If I had a staff of people where I could just show up and do the retreat part, I'd have more bandwidth, I'd have more energy to do more retreats and maybe able to impact more lives and, even bring more people hopefully to retreats. Whereas now we do between 12 to 16 people, and I'd like to do like 20 to 30 people at some point. So yeah, I mean, it's a pretty rigorous schedule though. I mean, we're doing 9 or 10 retreats every year, and there's not a whole lot of folks out there that are trying to put on 9 or 10 retreats a year. It's normally like at most once a quarter. Even like a guy like Joe Dispenza who has like a probably 1,000-person staff. They're doing one retreat every other month, I think, or so. So they're probably doing 6 or 7 a year. Deepak Chopra, I think, is doing kind of the same sort of thing, like 5 or 6 years. So it's a pretty aggressive schedule, but I mean, I love it. I really do. I get so much out of it. It's just, yeah, it's why I get out of bed in the morning. I really love it.
That's great. And I'm actually curious about how you're able to manage this with the business and logistical side of it, because I'm assuming that when you're doing like a four-day retreat, 7-day retreat, you have to also go off the grid with the people that you're doing it with, right? So how do you balance that, of like having to be present with the people that are in the retreat as a facilitator, but also being on top of like the work stuff, like with the emails and all of those things like that?
It's tricky. I mean, it's definitely tricky. I've had assistants at times, but it's hard because it's such a front-facing business, right? Where like people are really, at the end of the day, they're investing in the retreat, but they're deciding on it because they like me or they like what I have to bring to the table or offer. So, this last retreat was an example. While we were running the retreat, we have booking websites and other things that are running in the background. And so a lady that I've been talking to for a while, she finally pulled the trigger, bought her retreat. So right after I get off with you, I have to update our spreadsheet, send her welcome information, all that kind of stuff. Another lady yesterday booked the retreat all the way for February, so I gotta get her up to speed today. And then I even took a sales call while I was on break from one of the retreats. A lady was booked me on Calendly, and so I, set up a time with her to be able to connect with her. And it was kind of funny because it was synchronistic. Like we had a lady with 2 adult children on this retreat, and this lady was wanting to come with her adult children. And so it was like perfect because I was like, hey, like there's a lady here right now and it's working for them and it's perfect, So, but yeah, I mean, again, having a team, having support, this is the goal, right? Because I've just now entered, I call it like year 6, but it's really year like 4-ish because of COVID. So I think year 4 is where you do as a business start to figure out like where to put what eggs in what basket. And yeah, definitely having back end support and just general, day-to-day emails, like you said, admin stuff, I would probably call it. Yeah, it's time to liberate some of that stuff off of my energy palette and get it off of my plate. I love the sales calls. I love talking to people about their problems, their challenges, and then I really don't try to sell people the retreat. Actually, I really want to see if it's a good fit for them. Because if you're running a service-based industry or service-based business, like if you're trying to do something really intimate with people and you don't have everybody fully on board, even just one person who just doesn't quite fit, it's just like it can really sort of bring down the whole experience. So I'm always sensitive to making sure, and it's either people that are like looking for more of a vacation sometimes. And then sometimes we just have had folks reach out to us that like we're just not equipped. They need like drug intervention or they need something really, serious that we just don't have the capacity in a group setting to help them with. So, but yeah, it's coming soon. I'm hoping. No, I'm intending. It's going to happen where, I don't have to manage all the things. I don't have to make all the things by myself.
No, yeah, I totally get it. I think I talk to so many business owners who have this sort of like, I don't have bandwidth, but I want to do so much thing.
It's hard. It's hard, right?
Yeah.
Like, 'cause you have to consider your resources. I will say though, too, if I'm honest, this investment that I'm about to make in a marketing person is long overdue. And I think I was scared, like, to give up control of some things. I think I was scared to spend the money on it. But if you really need help with it, and look, there's people that are passionate about what you don't like to do, they love to do it, and they can do it much faster, they can do much better. And I think it's a bit of ego, right? Sometimes as a business owner, it's like, I can do it, I can do it better. I don't need to pay somebody to do this, but you're just like buying back your own time. And then if you're freeing up creative energy to do other things that like nobody can do in your business, then it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, for sure. And I think like it's a process for most business owners to sort of be able to relay that control to someone.
Totally.
And it's a great experience a lot of times because then they get people that are doing it even better than they ever could.
Yeah, I mean, entrepreneurs are funny. Like, they kind of like are proud of the fact that they like work like crazy. It's like they're so passionate. And it's like I get it. I mean, I do that too. Like, I love telling people like, hey, like I was, the website builder, and then I would even cook at our original retreats. Like, I wouldn't even hire a chef. I would be like running back from yoga class to make pancakes for people. And it was insane. I wasn't even making that much money. It was so much work. I mean, when I think about it now, I'm like, what were you doing? Like, it's just wild, But I mean, we do like. I think entrepreneurs like that. I think they like being proud of how much they do, But you don't always have to do it all.
Yeah, no, it definitely is sort of like a work in progress. I do hope that all goes well for you. It's been such a great conversation. Before though, I do have a little game prepared, John, for you. It's a rapid fire game. So I'm gonna put a 1 minute timer and I'm just gonna ask you some questions, not about marketing, not about business, just about you.
Okay.
How many we can go through in 1 minute. Okay.
Go for it.
Let me let me set up a timer. And I'm just gonna start reading the questions and just tell me the first thing that comes to mind.
You got it.
So there's 20 questions. We'll see how many we can get through.
I'll do my best.
Coffee or tea?
Tea.
Early bird or night owl?
Night owl.
Favorite social media platform?
Probably Instagram.
Go-to karaoke song?
Oh God, that's a tough one. Maybe Born in the USA. I don't know. That's probably not it, but yeah, okay. Born in the USA.
Books or podcasts?
Podcasts. Oh no. Yeah, that's so hard. Podcasts. Yes, though, podcasts.
One word that describes you?
Fun.
Dream vacation destination?
Thailand.
Most used app on your phone?
Gmail.
Favorite emoji?
The melting face one.
Hidden talent?
I play hockey. Play pretty high level hockey.
Oh, time's up. We got through 9 questions.
That wasn't bad. Now I'm curious what the last 11 questions were. I shouldn't have got stuck on. And that wasn't even a good answer. It's like I listen to a lot of punk rock, and that's not really good for karaoke. So I had to think about like pop. It was probably "Don't Stop Believing" by Journey. That actually probably would be.
Oh, Don't Stop Believing. It's a huge karaoke song. I don't know.
It's amazing.
Because it's not like something that I think people think about a lot. So every time I ask it, people are just like, dude, I don't know. Someone told me like, I don't go to karaoke. Like, don't ask me this question.
I mean, it's true. I haven't been to karaoke since I lived on the East Coast. So that's a long, long time.
No, but you did great. Some people get stuck on the podcast one too. For some reason they can't decide like podcasts or books.
I'll give that.
So
I
thank
also
you.
I would say like 50% I listen to book on tape, and then 50% is listening to podcasts. I seldom sit down and read a book because I'm so multitasking all the time, I feel like. But yeah, no, this is super fun.
I feel like people read less and they listen to books a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's meditative for me sometimes to actually physically read a book and not like be cooking or doing like 6 other things. But I do quite like my dog walks in the morning are like my space to like podcast or do like a book on tape, and I just sort of like do some brain dump stuff too while I'm, so that's like a very sacred time, but I love that. And even like I find myself sometimes like in the evenings, like I love a good show or movie, but it's not like what my brain needs. It needs a little less. So, I think a podcast or a book on tape, it's just nice. It's just really nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It can be like relaxing sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, John, thank you. It's been so great to have you on the show today. Before we close it off, I want to give you the space to plug something, whatever you want to plug. Space is yours to tell anybody listening or watching if they want to come to your retreat. If you're looking for someone to work for you, you're welcome to plug whatever you want.
Yeah, thank you. I think we're almost to the end of the hiring process, which we got over 180 applications on Indeed, which was so fun, but also so overwhelming. So I think we're almost to the end of that tunnel. But yeah, I mean, you can find all of our stuff at SoCalWellnessRetreats.com. So SoCal, SoCal, like Southern California. And then we got all the pretty much social medias, SoCal Wellness Retreats at Instagram, Facebook. We're going to create, I think, a TikTok at some point soon. But yeah, and just, feel free if you're curious or interested in collaborating or pulling out a retreat. Like, like I said, we don't do a lot of heavy marketing yet, but we love conversations. So an email, I think a phone call is just such a beautiful lost art to be able to talk on the phone with people. So would love to chat with anybody who's interested in anything holistic health. And if we could support you in that journey, yeah, reach out to us.
Awesome. Yeah. And I will be adding the links to your website and all relevant things to the description of this video for the people watching. And for the listeners, go to the video to get the link.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for doing this, John. Everybody, I will see you on the next episode.
Thank you, Daniela.
You've been listening to Fully Managed, brought to you by Penji. Check out the show notes to learn more about today's guest. And to learn more about Penji, the human-first creative subscription service, head over to penji.co. And by the way, if you're still listening, it would mean the absolute world to us if you were to share this podcast with a friend and, of course, subscribe.